A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance review show. It's 3 wins in a week. The last time Town managed that, Kevin Nagle had just arrived and Neil Warnock was all smiles after the Reading game in 2023. It'd be like missing an open goal, not turning up after a 3-3. Joining me to sing when we're winning, it's Richard Kosi Kosmala, Ian Kilroy, and back on the pod once again, like a renegade master, it's Dom Howson. How are we doing, guys?
Good, Matt. Is this my Thursday Yorkshire Rivals name? I think they changed it. Kosi and Takes That Chance, or Stevenage changed it. Did they? Can people change it? With people, for me, it's weird, isn't it?
Shall we find out?
Well, that's what I'm on. Can he Takes That Chance? So it's not lying, is it?
I love how you've only just noticed this now, Kosi, after we started recording.
Was you talking about pies and bottlenecks in the queues on Saturday?
How's that?
Oh, Matt, I knew someone was coming like that. You upset me, mate. I'm going to ring that stewarding hotline and get you ejected. Oh, what is the number? Text the steward.
Right then, so let's get going. So no sponsor as of yet for Andy Takes That Chance. I will reach out again to people who've expressed an interest quite soon. It's just been a little bit hectic around. Right, boys, let's start the podcast. Right, so driving into the ground, it became evidence there was going to be no Reece Healy this week. Not that you'd have known that driving in, considering Leeds United were on all three frequencies again for Radio Leeds, a particular bugbear of mine. Is this the way it's going to be with Reece Healy, do you think, Dom? I mean, we've talked about this before. A guy gets an ACL injury. What happens, or what used to happen 10 years ago when I paid more attention to them, if someone got a bad knee injury, then other parts would kind of go as well. It would be connected to the hamstrings, to the groin, to shin, the calf, and then it was quite... players would need to manage their injuries a little bit more. Do you think, is this going to be the way with Reece Healy, or is this just a precaution?
I think it's a precaution on this occasion, and you're going off what Michael Duff said after Saturday, that he could even be involved for Shrewsbury. But I think it is a concern, especially so early on in the season, when he's had pre-season where he's been in great form, full of confidence, and then we're into the second league match of the season and there's no Reece Healy on the team sheet. And when you think that, and you look at Town's forward line at the moment, who's the one that is capable of getting between 15 to 20 goals? I think it is only Reece Healy. So you can't bank on him that he's 29, he's going to be 30 in December. I think we've already quickly seen, haven't we, in the first week of the season, that I think Town will be making a grave error to be putting all their eggs in the basket that Reece Healy's going to stay fit for the entire season. I think it's totally unrealistic that's going to happen with his injury track record. And so that's why, for me, Town still need at least one more striker to come through the door. But I'd argue 2 offensive players. And then actually I think I'd be pretty happy with the squad, the makeup of it. And then I think Town, you'd get to January then, and they could take stock and see how they're looking on the injury front, how far they've got in the cup competitions. But yeah, I think strength and depth wise, if Town get another 2 bodies in, then I think they're looking in really good shape.
Have you just done a Kosi and just written off at the end of my agenda there? Is that what you've done, Dom?
I might have done, and that was after I'd slaughtered Kosi and banked on Kosi was going to do that. But yeah, I think
Exactly,
I might have jumped ahead a little bit. But yeah.
Oh dear.
That's okay. We can do that. You know,
Yeah, we can be fluid, like a Mark Robbins system. Guys, so no Reece Healy, so obviously Danny Ward steps in. Danny Ward's got his lovers and his haters, but we'll talk about him in a little bit as well. So I thought Town were pretty good at first in the first half, without it being particularly more exciting at times against Peterborough. But we hit the post quite early on. Killer reliably tells me that was Brodie Spencer who hit the post from the corner. There's a great ball from Mikael Hellick. I think Mikael Hellick's ball playing from the back is a little bit underrated at times, and he hits a great ball to Ben Wiles. Ben Wiles lobs it. Should really score, but it's a good clearance from Good in the end, Charlie Good. And I thought at this point, Kosi, I know you were watching the game from a very comfortable position. Town started quite well, and it wasn't really a surprise, was it, when Sorensen, swings that ball in and Karoma bullets a header past for what people think is his first ever headed goal in professional football.
No, Sorensen provides. That seems to be the story of the first few games. But no, it wasn't Matt. It would interesting to see how we were going to start, to be honest with you, because I think this was after Peterborough. I think people weren't sure, and obviously the cup game and a lot of changes and what have you. But everyone expects us to just hit the ground running, and we did. We did hit the ground running as well. And the commentators were like talking as like we were Real Madrid and fearing, we can't get on the ball. And like, what were it? 73% possession in the first half. We were just, and the thing is, we've seen it before, like with other teams with Town, where they get a lot of possession, but they don't do a lot with it. But I thought we were quite concisive, and we came forward in waves. And yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I thought Wiles should have scored early on with that chance. And the goal, Josh Karoma. Hopefully we talk about him later on. It's won't spoil it for now, but yeah. Bullet header. I think it was one of those, to be honest, Matt, that even if he'd missed it with his head, he got his shoulder gone in. It was just the cross would just beg him on it to be put in and that as well. But absolutely. Sorensen's accuracy of his crossing is fantastic, mate, so far. It's very rare you see what you've seen so many fullbacks in the past. They get to the byline or and you cut, and you're just thinking that you've cut it back too far. But some of these crosses, especially on Tuesday night, I don't know if we'll cover that game much, but just fantastic, mate. And I just want to keep it down about this guy because, again, you just don't know defensively. It'd be interesting to see what happens. But, yeah, nice to get that early goal, Matt, because you always think, don't you, in them games when you're playing well and against opposition who were trying to kind of work it out and that as well, that they were going to have a spell. But, yeah, lovely goal. And, Josh Karoma's a striker, not for me, but he's doing a job so far. And, nice for him to get them on the score sheet.
Town were very good in the first half. I completely agree with Kosi. I think they should have been out of sight. But I also thought there was an element of, I was surprised at how much respect Stevenage showed us. It was as if they did turn up, and they thought, we're playing the champions-elect of League One here. And so they didn't show any ambition for me. I just didn't think there was any they came to sort of sit back and try to contain. And then it was only in the second half after they made the changes and changed formation where they came and had a go. But I mean, that's not taking anything away from Town. You can only beat what's put in front of you. And we completely dominated the first half to the point where they didn't have a shot at goal. So really, other than scoring a couple of goals, it was almost the perfect first half, I thought, from Town.
Killer, it kind of went how we thought it'd go, didn't it, in the warm-up in terms of how Stevenage set out. Tyrese Simpson, I think a lot of people thought, oh no, he's going to come back and haunt us. He didn't really, did he? He didn't really look that great. I think Hoggy left a few stud marks on him as well, didn't he, in the first half? I think Dom's right as well. Stevenage just seemed quite happy to be content and try and soak things up, didn't they? And really, Town sort of bossed it really without looking like a cavalier front foot team too much, didn't we? It's not like you could sit here and say we should have been 4-5-6-0 up at half time, because that's not really the case. But Town did look good, but a lot of that was because Stevenage kind of sat deep and hit long balls into space where we ended up 2-1 against them, and it worked quite well in our favour. That's really it, isn't it, for the first half? I think Stevenage just tried to damage limitation, and we we really could have had a few more, I guess, but not a lot more.
I just don't understand why they gave us so much respect. In the first game, they've beaten Shrewsbury and did okay. They should have won by more than one goal. Then they went to Norwich midweek and put a good performance in there. And I thought, what did that in 4-3, I think, to Norwich? They did really well. And they've come to us. And okay, we beat a Peterborough side who, looking at scores this weekend, actually might be a little bit better than we thought, having they pumped Shrewsbury 4-1, I think, on Saturday. But Stevenage didn't even turn up. And now you understand you go into a team away, a big team in the division like Town are. And that's not me being big-headed. That's just what generally teams in the division will think. And you kind of get them sitting back a little bit. But once you made the changes at half-time, they look a total different team in the second half. I understand they are losing at that point, so it's a little bit easier. But that respect, like Dom said, they showed us in that first half. They're giving the team, who are at home for the first time this season, in front of the fans that are expecting a victory, all the ball. And now, for me, they played Charlie Good in that defensive central midfield role. And he normally plays as a centre-back, but they played him a little bit further advanced because they were just trying to sacrifice any type of ball playing they had to stop us creating anything, but still gave us all the ball. We made 300 passes nearly in that first half, and they didn't even break 100. And now we were really good. We were absolutely really good. But Stevenage really showed us so much respect. We could pass the ball around at will. And it was quite fortunate, really, for them that, Matt, we were never going to be 3-4-0 up at half-time. But 1-0 was still pretty fortunate, really, for them because, like you say, Spencer's hit the post from a nice, well-worked corner routine and with a nice little back flick. We just had all the play, and we should have been not necessarily out of sight, but had a bit more of a buffer than we had when it came to half-time. But Stevenage got it very wrong for me. I think if we don't score in the 26th minute, I think, is that what it was? I think another couple of minutes, they might have changed it at that point. You get through the first half an hour away from home, and then you open up a bit. Then you start asking questions. And unfortunately for them, that's when we did get our nose ahead. It was just a strange defensive setup for me that Stevenage came with that really played into our hands, and we really didn't take full advantage of it, but made it very difficult for them to try and get back into the game going 1-0 up.
Matt, when was the last time we had 73% position? I'm trying to think. I couldn't be bothered to look at the stats.
Bill Wagner. I remember having 75% at Blackburn once with David Wagner.
The only one I can remember recently were Reading. Remember Reading at home when they were absolute garbage when we'd stopped up out into Warnock. But still, even then, I wouldn't have thought of Warnock team would get 73%. But it was so easy, mate. The commentators on, I think it's 3 Counties Radio, whatever, they were like, wow, this team, we can't lay a finger on them. They've been dominated, annihilated. They were like so relieved for half time. It was unbelievable. I'm sat there thinking, wow, like you said, they're playing the champions elect, but yeah, as we're going to talk about in a minute, things change quickly.
Yeah, I don't think we were perhaps as good as what maybe that. But let's talk about the second half then, because Stevenage did sort of make those changes at half time, and they looked at where we were weak, and I mean, Killer, we highlight this all the time. Town are weak out there behind the wing backs because they've got Brodie Spencer on the wrong side, and they've got Tom Lees, who is a better central defender. He's not rapid, is he, in terms of being able to get out? But we understand that. That's just what Tom Lees is. He's fantastic in the middle. And Town's first warning comes from probably one of the misses of misses of the season, really. It's really poor from our back three all rounders. They brought on Dan Kemp, didn't they? And he was a player we highlighted, didn't we, in the warm up show? I'm trying to plug this warm up show for us, Killer, the new warm up show, make it all link together. We picked him out, didn't we? Because we thought Dan Kemp, after that spell he had at Swindon, seemed to be a dangerous player, and he kind of peels off Jonathan Hogg, who doesn't really go with him or press the ball. So he comes into an area now whereby Mikael Hellick or Tom Lees has got a decision to make to go forward, and unfortunately, both of them go to him. And this is where the mistake is, because initially you kind of think, oh, Brodie's been done down the inside again, but it's not Brodie Spencer's fault at all. Both Lees and Hellick, and Hellick actually leaves a man to do that, whereas Lees is free. So really, Hellick shouldn't be making that move. And then it falls nicely for them, doesn't it? And then they go down the right-hand side, and they put it across the poor. It's Elliott List, isn't it? And he must score that. It's such an easy chance, Dom.
He could have taken a touch. It was shocking.
Yeah, he could have walked it in. He could have got down and headed it in like Brian Laws. He could have. There were all sorts he could have done there, and he's just kind of maybe panicked a bit, hasn't he? But it comes just after halftime, and Town are really sort of still in the changing room, still in Latvia. We've got Shrewsbury coming up, haven't we? So they're still not quite with it. But it's just Town have really made a real mistake there, and this can happen with a back three when you're playing a back three and you're playing against teams that are now committed to 4 going forward. But that miss, Kosi, you sneezing, so we'll come to Killer. But that miss was phenomenal. I mean, I think if they score at that point, I still think we win the game. I'll be honest. I think we wake up at that moment and then and go on and win the game. But it was a real sort of warning bell, wasn't it? And Town were very lackadaisical throughout that second half. And I think you can credit. I don't want to discredit Stevenage because they were better, but we really took our foot off the intensity, didn't we, that second half? And really, we sort of. It was almost like 3 games in a week. Let's just see this out now. We've won this game. But really, 1-0, we hadn't won that game, and Stevenage caused us quite a few problems.
We looked tired in that second half. But Matt, like you're saying, that it's a perfect example of where my worries are of our defensive line on that chance for Elliott List there. Like you say, Hellick and Lees both bite. They're slow defenders. So if one of them bites and gets dribbled around or they pass around him, they don't have the pace to get back. And if both guys go, we're 1-on-1 at the back. And lastly, Sorensen actually... Whilst he didn't get there to tackle List, he was there and thereabouts.
Saw the danger, didn't he? Yeah.
And I think just being there made List snatch it a little bit. It was kind of coming across his body on his right foot, wasn't it? And he obviously mustn't have that much of a left foot, because I think if he did, he'd have really taken a touch and popped it under him, like Dom suggested. But that was a warning sign right there. I was surprised, like we were saying there, Matt, with Dan Kemp subbing. They went with Charlie Good instead of Kemp. And then as soon as Kemp comes on, for this chance and for the rest of the half, he just filled in that gap between Johnny Ogg and the 3 defenders, and he was just a bit of a nuisance, offering every now and again when he went further forward. And the problem is our defenders don't have that pace to get out and meet him, and that was the warning sign. And we were quite fortunate, Matt. I know you reckon we'd have had enough to come back and win, and it'd have woken us up.
I think so.
But it'd have put us in a position we've not been in this year, where we'd have had to kind of go again, pick ourselves up and go again in a game we're expected to win. We were very fortunate that he put that wide. Lee Nichols did actually do quite well to get across his goal. And I don't think... I know everyone says it's an easy chance. He should have done better. It should have been on target. He should have scored. Absolutely. But there were a few things there. There were a few mitigating circumstances, so it was never a dead cert. But the warning signs were there for that second half from the first minute after Stevenage made those changes. And our urgency just didn't seem to pick up. And that kind of set the tone then for what we saw for the next 45 minutes.
It's interesting that Killer says sort of tiredness. And that shouldn't have been a factor at all when you think that Michael Duff had made 8 changes from the cup tie. So most of that 11 had a full week to get ready. I think, for me personally, I thought it was just more complacency.
Yeah, I did.
Like what you were saying, Matt, I think that they had more gears that they could have gone to, even if Stevenage had equalised at that point. I think they had another chance after that. And then, of course, Town get the second goal. And, from that moment, you felt as if that was it. And just Town played sort of within themselves. And we're nitpicking, right? We're sounding like we've been quite negative so far on this pod when you think Town have won. But the reality is that Town are going to come up against much stronger opposition this season. So it's great that they've got this early momentum that they're generating. But when you think there's Stockport and Wrexham and Birmingham and some of the teams that we're expecting Town to be competing against, hopefully for the top 2, they're going to have to obviously show more than that. And if they drop the standards and play like they did for most of that second half against better teams, they're going to get punished.
The only thing that you've forgot in between that, guys, is a horrendous miss, in my opinion, from Danny Ward. Shocking miss.
No, that's after, mate. We'll come to that. That was afterwards.
No, it wasn't. It was straight after this. I've just watched it now, actually. So,
no,
yeah.
That's what I mean. It's straight after, but we're going to...
You were 47 minutes, that bad miss, and then a minute later, Ward missed.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But
it was really weird, wasn't it? Because it came out of nowhere, really, did Stevenage's pressing as well. And we were kind of reeling from it as well, but I think the crowd as well, like just in there, everyone got complacent. I think Dom said it right. I just think it were like we'd done the business and the queue were back on the rack, so to speak, as well. So yeah, it's incredible miss. He just cushioned it into him as well. I know what you're saying, Killer, about his foot or what have you, but he's just. I'm trying to think of a bobble or a crowd, a guy going like that behind the goal. I just cannot think of any reason why you would miss that. There's nothing, is there?
The thing is, sorry, Dom, the thing is there, Stevenage did nothing first half, and that chance comes to him after they've had no attacks all first half. And you're already thinking, I might not get another chance here, I've got to score it. And that's half the problem when you're so defensive, because when the chances do come, you snatch at it, which is pretty similar to what Danny Ward does a few seconds after.
I think that's what we're going to notice generally, though, in League One this season, is that Town will get let off the hook by how bad some of the finishing is. And when the league sorts itself out, I can see it being like it has been for the last few years in League One. There's going to be 2 leagues within the whole league, and the bottom half, where we're expecting Stevenage and Shrewsbury with the greatest respect. They're going to, when they come to the John Smith Stadium, they're not going to create masses of chances. And when they do, are they going to be good enough and ruthless enough to take them? They probably won't be 9 times out of 10. But in the Championship, of course, there's a different level, isn't there? You know, that's where the standard is much, much higher.
Dom, doesn't it remind you, Stevenage were playing a part of Huddersfield Town the last 2 seasons, weren't they? Pretty much bossed out of the game. You get a chance and miss it and that as well when you've created nothing. It was just like watching us for 2 seasons. So I did have a little bit of sympathy with him.
Read my agenda, is Kosi. Read my agenda.
Oh, did you? Is that what you said?
It's on my thing later, yeah. But great minds. Actually, I don't think I put that on the agenda. I think that's more great minds thinking alike, or worryingly us thinking alike. Kosi, there's one thing you said to me this morning. Get it on Twitter. Let's see what people's worst miss at the John Smith Stadium was. And I did. I listened. Any that you got? Well, there was one that stuck out for me straight away when you said that, and I thought, oh, do you know what? That time Theo Robinson went around the keeper and stuck it wide. That sticks out a mile.
I can't remember any.
Do you not remember?
Jones from last year. How has he missed that? I mean, it was a great clearance off the line, but for Middlesbrough, I mean, that's for me has to go down as one of the all-time sitters.
Yeah. I can remember that last season. That good.
Lee Robinson says Theo Robinson in 2009. Neil says Izzy Brown at Wembley. I think he's missed the stadium thing, but we'll allow it. Izzy Brown at Wembley was a shocker. Neil _J_A says Wayne Allison versus Barnsley. I actually had this on my list as well. It's against Swindon. Wayne Allison towards the end of his first full season, and it just comes across to Wayne Allison 6 yards out, easy tapping, and he just smashes it over the bar for no reason. But the Chief was never the best with his feet. We've got. Let's have a look. Someone mentions Hartlepool at home, Boxing Day 2010. Bjornsson misses from 2 yards out. I do remember that, actually. That was an absolute shocker in the Lee Clark era. Ashley Fletcher for Boro a few years ago after Schofield made that save, and that was right over the bar, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Boro and Town misses all the time, isn't it?
Izzy Brown again gets a mention, as does Theo Robinson. Tommins versus Arsenal gets a mention from Mark. Lord Ollie Turton says Danny Ward about a minute.
Say that now.
Yeah, Lord Ollie Turton says Danny Ward about a minute after this. Isaiah Jones last season came up as well. That one where he has to tap it in from about a centimetre out and he misses the ball. Hartlepool at home gets another mention as well. There's a couple, and there's a video to it. I remember a couple actually. Danny Ward against Wigan was quite bad. It was Danny Schofield's last game, and there's a ball came across the box, and Danny Ward is reaching slightly, but he puts it about 15 feet over from 6 yards. There's Mark Hudson. Do you remember Mark Hudson? He makes an absolute howler. I think it's away at Yeovil or something in about 2006. Nigel Clibbins Jr. Sent me a message, and he mentions John McAliskey away at Bristol City as well as a shambles of one. But there have been some pretty bad misses down at the stadium. I think it's safe to say that Elliott List makes the list, shall we say? Bit of Chris Jericho for you there, Killer. So apologies to Elliott List, but it's not the best, is it? That one, but I'm sure as people remember, and there might be some more comments afterwards. I'm sure there's been more down there as well. There's been some absolute stinkers down at the stadium, hasn't there? With regards to people missing from under the crossbar. And I'm trying to remember another one. I'm sure someone missed one against Bradford City, which was an absolute sitter at one point from about a yard out. And that 3-3 game, I might be misremembering. But anyway, Danny Ward didn't have a good day, because like you mentioned, he missed after that miss. We go up the other end. Josh Karoma puts a really good ball across to Danny Ward. He just kind of gets his feet wrong, doesn't he? He comes across, and you can tell he wants to take it on his left foot first, and then he changes to go with his right, and he ends up putting that over the bar. And to be honest, I didn't think it was a good day for Danny Ward. He it was one of those where he's trying to play back to goal against a team that's quite deep, and at times Stevenage had a back six. I took a picture on my phone. I think I put it in the WhatsApp group. They literally had a back six at times during this game, and it's just one of those where he needs people running off him. But they were so deep that he couldn't really play anyone in. So it wasn't the best day, and maybe it was a day for your more diminutive types like Marshall, maybe. But
yeah, I wanted Marshall to start, Matt, but I didn't have any qualms, to be fair, when the team were announced. I just wondered if he maybe done enough on Tuesday, but I think it were always going to be almost like a B team Tuesday, wasn't it? That were and I didn't surprise. To be fair, Matt, he wasn't as hard. He obviously wasn't as easy as the chance of Stevenage guffed, but yeah, I'm a bit harsh with that, saying it were like one of the worst misses of the stadium.
Nah, it wasn't.
Nah,
I think it was tongue in cheek.
Yeah, but the only thing I'd say, mate, is like, I know didn't we say then that's the preview pod, or it might have been someone else, I heard it. If Ogg's starting every game, then there's something wrong. And I'm just thinking, if Ward's starting every game, there's something wrong. I get there's only 2 games gone and it's a long season, but to me, I think I want to see a Ward on the bench and an Ogg on the bench but that might happen soon and that as well. And how can we criticise 3 wins in a row? But it's just not a natural striker to me, is Ward, Matt, and he's never has been. And I don't think Koroma is. I don't know, we're going to come on to that later on, but it's like that's where we're still missing something. Marshall looks more of a natural striker than any of those, but obviously he's only a young kid, and like Dom says, he maybe wants 2 strikers, but 2 attacking players in. But we still do lack that. But everyone's looking for that out there, and and I thought it was interesting when it was really good. Some reality in the press conference. Honestly, a Duff press conference I absolutely adore, mate. After being bored to tears with Moore and Brighton were quite tasty, but the fact that he said that we're gonna have to wait because we'll be like 3rd in the queue behind Championship, to get Premier loans and stuff. I think we're a big reality check for everyone, because even now I'm thinking, yeah, you're right there, mate. Where you automatically thinking, right, once they're finalised, they're going to send them to League One. People ain't going to be chucking your players to League One much, are they? So it's going to be a bit of we're going to have to do some good business here, I think, with this extra striker. But I suppose I'll throw it back at you, Matt. If we don't get another striker in, do you still think it's good enough to get in the playoffs, or do you think we look again at Jan? How are you feeling about it, mate?
Playoffs, yeah. Top 2, no. I think that's where it hinges. But let's talk about Town's goal, mate, because it's a good goal as well. It comes from. This is why I thought, Killer, that if Town had conceded that goal, they'd have still gone on to win, because it was just moments of quality. Like just a moment of quality where Town just upped the level for a couple of minutes and then dropped back down, and then they just seemed to up the level for a few minutes and then drop back down for 5. It was it wasn't a bad second half. It was just a sort of frustrating one where I think complacency kicked in, but when they needed to up it at certain points, they did do. And this was quite a good goal for me. Anthony Evans drives through midfield really well, plays it across to Sorensen, who then squares it across to the other number 8, Ben Wiles, and Ben Wiles has been on fire, hasn't he, since pre-season, and that is an absolute quality finish. And we've all played football at varying levels. To strike a ball like that from a bobbling ball, well, it's not bobbling per se, is it? But it's a ball like that from Sorensen. It's hard to keep that down and control it, and he does that absolutely fantastically. It's a really good goal, and I think when we do our goal of the season videos towards the end, that might even be in with a shout for your top 10. I thought that was a really, really good finish from Ben Wiles. Really well controlled, top corner, 2-0, and probably we did think it was game over at that point, mate.
Yeah, we did. The finish is great. And like you say, Matt, it's amazing. I think Town need to bring this new thing in where if you join our club and you have the ability to grow hair, but you don't actually have it at the moment, you must grow it. Because every player we ever have that comes back with a luscious bit of hair.
Samson, it's all in the hair, mate. It's all with the podders as well. This is the difference between me and Kosi. That's we've got it's the Samson effect, as we call it. I'm only joking, Kosi.
He looks a total different. Well, obviously, a few of us picked him out as being quite good last season, but in a poor system. And this year, he looks really, really good. What I really enjoyed about the goal, Matt, wasn't just the finish, right? But already, and I don't know if we should go into this because I don't know if everyone's picked up on it quite yet, but Town have a very specific way of attacking, and we score a lot of goals by one play. And that play is getting it to Anthony Evans as quick as possible, who plays it into Sorensen as quick as possible. The striker makes a run to the front post. If he whips it in first time, like our first goal, Koroma nods it in. If Sorensen doesn't whip it in first time, he takes it 10 yards and pulls it back to the edge of the box. Against Peterborough, Evans and Wiles both benefited from this. And yesterday, Wiles benefited from this again. We've got set plays now when we get the ball and attack. And under Darren Moore, we definitely didn't have that. And I'm really enjoying seeing it. It's the only one that I've I've kind of noticed and seen it work. But that yesterday, Matt, the Wiles goal that we're talking about here, Karoma drops as a false 9 as well and has a bit of a battle in the middle before playing it off to Evans, who then drives it forward to Sorensen. It's really nice to see us have these kind of set plays within games. That's about as much as you get in football. It's not like NFL or rugby where you can line up people perfectly because it's a stop-start game. In football, it is fluid, so it's quite hard sometimes to pick it out. But the way Town like to attack is having somebody on the opposite side of the pitch. Miller did it yesterday for the first goal. He did a nice bit of work and cut inside to the middle, then played to Evans, then to Sorensen, and that's how we whip the ball in. We're causing teams all sorts of problems, Kosi, sorry, by doing the same thing. And the players are that good at it that no one can really answer it yet. And honestly, the pullback we have to the box, and actually Duff spoke about this in his conference. He said Wiles was taking up the 8 role on the pullback. That was designed. It was designed from the off, and the finish is fantastic. But we must have been working at that in training, because throughout all pre-season and these first 2 league games, you can see it happening. You can see exactly what they're working on in training on the pitch. And we've not had that at Town for a long, long time. And whilst I'm negative about the defensive structure we have every now and again, when it comes to attacking, we look really, really good. And I don't think many teams in League One will be able to handle that. Ward's chance, Kosi, he snatches at it because I think he's used to playing Championship defenders. There's no one near him. He's got so much time there to stop and put it in. But I think it'll take a bit of time for the players to adjust to the level we're in. And like Dom said, League One's, it's quite a drop against certain teams with the defenders. And we'll go on to Shrewsbury, Matt, in our warm-up later on, and their defenders are very big and very slow. They're very strong, but that's what you kind of get at League One. And certain styles of play, certain styles of attackers have got things there's no answer to at this level. But that little run that Town have out to Sorensen to whip it in, no one's found an answer for it yet between Morecambe, Stevenage and Peterborough on the first day.
It was technically a super strike from Wiles. It was a great finish. And you're right. I think, on the crossing, that's important when you think that Town, at the moment, don't have a big target man or physical centre forward. So when it comes to pullbacks, I think, Killer's absolutely spot on that we have to be, I think, pretty precise with our crossing, and that's why you want our attacking midfielders, and he's trying to release them to get, to then get on the end of those, and that's what Wiles did. He just sort of ghosted in the box. He was completely unmarked. It was really good play from Wiles. But I mean, overall, I would say on him, I still think there's more to come. He drifts in and out of matches too much for me. He's infuriating when you think that he's got so much in his locker, but he doesn't impose his will on a match enough for me. And I find it really frustrating when you look at him and you think he's got all the ability to be one of the best players in this division, but I'm still not convinced, even though he's got 2 in 2, that consistently he's going to do the business for Town. I'd love to be proven wrong and he ends up with double-figure goals, half a dozen or more assists. That would be great if we got that level of output. But I still wonder and look at him, is he going to be in Town's best 11 come the end of the season? Or will it be Herbie Kane will be in there plus another? It really wouldn't shock me.
What a nice problem.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have.
What a nice problem to have, Dom, from like having a midfield. There's a few things that just stand out for me here. Just the style of the goals, and like in midweek and that as well. It's just like pass, move, pass, move, pass, move. It's unbelievable. It's like, I know it's League One and you've got to temper the opposition, but in it, just because of Town fan, just to think, wow, this is good. This is our team scoring fantastic goals. Okay, Stevenage. Another thing I noticed as well, and I've still shot at it here, when Wiles scored, there's 3 guys with their arms in the air like that when we've scored. Brilliant signs. You've seen it before in like other teams that are not getting on, and we've talked about Brighton right here. People just don't even run towards the celebration, so they're pumping the air. One's Miller, one's Danny Ward, and one's Evans. So they're all like that. So everyone's on the same page. They've scored a goal against Stevenage, big deal. They're like that. Get in there. That's a great sign for me, mate. They've got people buying into it as well. And the one thing with Wiles, obviously, Dom, you've got the doubts and stuff. How much fitter does he look now? Honestly, he looks totally ripped. And we said it, that we refuse to believe he can be as bad as he was last season. Yeah, it might be the level down that's kind of prompting this as well. But to me, the fitness is unbelievable. You look at him now, he looks a different guy. He really does. And I know people kept banging on about pre-season and, getting it right and stuff. And I sometimes thought they were a bit of an excuse, and I did defend Warnock over that. But you can't deny that our guys look fit. And I don't want to, let's get kind of maybe after 3 games, but there's just little nice things that you're seeing as well. And like you said, God, your midfielders that can't get in. I think what's Kazuma was like that 5th, 6th choice now, something. It's why shouldn't we get excited though? We've had misery, 2 seasons of misery. Let temper with it, but as we're playing. But I just think them goals, if you didn't put Stevenage there and then you didn't put Huddersfield Town and you just showed it to a stranger, this is a game of football. They'll be like, wow, what a goal that is. But I think we're trying to talk it down because of the opposition and then we're playing. But we should be excited with this football. It's good. It's good.
I think what I'll say, Dom, as well, is that when Ben Wiles is away, I think he goes looking for things quite high up the pitch, so he doesn't get quite as involved in the middle. And I think that's when Anthony takes control in that midfield area as well. And then when Anthony Evans goes looking, Ben Wiles drops back in. I think they quite dovetail quite well together.
And that should improve that partnership, the work between them. It should do. I'll tell you what I love Ben Wiles' interview to BBC Radio Leeds afterwards. He was very honest, and he admitted that last year was tough and that he didn't play anywhere near the level he expected. And you guys have talked a lot on the pod about, I do think it was hard for him with the injury and then the amount of managers Town had. That's if we're making excuses for him. We still expected more considering the fee that Town paid for him. But yeah, it might be that this season is the one that we're going to benefit from, as he does look fitter. Cossy's absolutely right. He definitely does look like it's just a fresh start for him. And it is for a few of the guys, under Duff. And that Duff's so refreshing in everything that he says as well. He even, held his hands up and admitted that second half wasn't good enough. It's exactly what we want to hear. It's honesty, and it's bang on the money. It's not trying to sort of sugarcoat it. He knows deep down that if Town play like that against better teams, that they will lose. And so he's seeing what we're seeing.
I think that was great from Duff. I think he's really good at sort of tempering expectations, but at the same time, sort of trying to get the players to focus and deliver something which is also above those expectations, if you like, as well. So I think he's quite smart in the way that he plays things, Michael Duff. And every time Kosy's the same, aren't you? Every time Michael Duff listens, he's quite a good listen, isn't he? When he speaks, sorry, it's worth listening to, is Michael Duff. And I find a lot of things interesting. You can kind of tell the military background as well, can't you? With the way he sort of compartmentalizes things, the way he structures things as well. It's all very simple, very small steps, and it's working, and it works in football, Kosy, doesn't it? Though you don't overcomplicate things, and things are looking really good with him.
I said to the Stevenage guy that I did that preview with. I'm thinking, you see, I like watching the pre-match press conference. That's been one of the good things the last couple of seasons. The YouTube press conferences, I do like watching them, and get quite a few days off in the week these days with my shifts, so I'll sit down and watch them. But you used to watch Darren Moore, and saying this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and even to a certain extent Brighton writer, and then you'd watch the game on Saturday, think, hey mate, 2 days ago this was said and that's said. Michael Duff's doesn't. I mean, it's early days, but he says what he's thinking, what kind of happened, and you see it act out on the pitch though and stuff, and he doesn't try and sell you something as well. What I like about it, that doesn't. It's almost like he's a Yorkshireman. He's not. He's not from Yorkshire.
He's a proper he's a proper Northern about heart, though. I always think that is because I think it must be Burnley, so he kind of it's kind of cut from that cloth, isn't it? I think might be just the years he spent at Burnley. It's
good. I like the fact he's challenging players as well, Matt. And I think it's like he stamped his authority early on. He's kind of mentioning guys. Can he? It's almost like not taunting, but will he be doing that in November or December? And I like the fact as well of calling out the player. I think this was before the first game when he was saying, the key is going to be these guys that are not in. Are they going to be there? They're going to be bad apple. He says because and he was mentioning about like the stadium. It's all flashy and new, and everyone's buzzing. It's still like honeymoon stage and stuff. So he's kind of questioning what's going to happen when we hit that trouble spot, when we go 2 goals behind in a game. He's almost like calling the fans out on it. So it's quite interesting. I really do like that. And, I don't know, we've all worked on different managers at work, but I think some of the best managers I've worked under at work, it's like they don't let you think you've had a good month, so you sit down for your 1-to-1, and then they'll be like, yeah, but what about this? You can do that better, and you're thinking, bloody hell, mate, I've done well here. But they're just wanting to get your standards up better and higher and stuff. And I think that's really nice. So someone like Danny Ward, I'd love to be flying the wall when he's having a 1-to-1, 33 and a half or whatever he is now. And it's just like you're thinking, well, I don't see my time out of this, but Duff won't like this though, mate. And no, it's really good. And it's not just us talking about it. You people that you see on your group chats or when you're having a beer before, people have are really liking what they're seeing. And it's really weird because I said to the Stevenage guy, from when you get relegated, you normally, well, it took me a while to get kind of on it, but it's just the pre-season were good. But normally there's a deflation. Oh my God, League One, but just everything about the club and Duff, he's coming. He's not promising massive things, really. He's just being honest, and I just love refreshing honesty instead of, this and we might do that. And John Worthington one like that, for a certain extent, for a month, and people bought into it. And I think just because, obviously because he was an ex-player and stuff, I think the buy-in was a bit more. But I just think if he were just some random guy that we got, and I don't know, Caretaker Manager and Carlisle, people would have bought into that just as much. So I think Huddersfield public won't be fooled. And Michael Duff, it just seems, you said it to me the other night, Matt, on the text, is like, he just seems the perfect fit for Huddersfield Town at the moment. And just hope we're saying that maybe after, hopefully when we, because it will happen, we'll lose a game, I'm sure we will, but it's like,
of course we will,
it's Rotherham away is coming up soon. It's hard to talk about that big game because last year it was for another reason, but there's bigger tests to come. Bolton away soon, but it feels exciting again, mate. And it's a bit odd, really, when you've been relegated. It shouldn't be like this, should it?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the last thing to talk about in the game is I think Town saw, after going 2-0 up, I don't really think Stevenage offered anything too much in the way of worry. I think they were better than they were. Obviously, they were better than they were first half, but I don't think they really threatened massively. The guy Roberts, who was an absolute pain all afternoon, niggly and sticking his elbows and everything in, he was a horrible player. He had a good shot wide, but I don't think they really did anything. But the last thing's the penalty decision. Was it harsh? I think a lot of people thought it was harsh. Dave and Chicken didn't think it was a penalty. I mean, you see about 30 of those a game not given, don't they, when the ball comes in. But by the same token, when I've watched it, you kind of go, yeah, okay, I see. I mean, if he gives it, you kind of go, yeah, okay. And if he doesn't, you kind of go, yeah, okay. It was just one of those for me. But I think it's a consistency, because I think there was a lot of tackles like that during the game that went completely unpunished. And I'll go on to the referee in a minute because I thought he was absolutely shite. But that penalty for me, I was just like, when I saw it and I saw what Brodie Spencer had done, I was like, yeah, okay. Dom, you were kind of, I think you agree maybe.
A lot of people in the ground, I don't think they could understand live what it was given for. But then I've seen the replay. No, I think it's a blatant penalty. He's pulled him back. Yep. He's got the wrong side of him. He gave the ref a decision to make. The ref had a perfect view. And it was, I'm afraid, naivety from Brodie Spencer, who didn't have the best of matches, and he wasn't alone. But I know we've spoken about this, Matt, and I know you've had your views, but I'm beginning to think I'm not a big lover of Brodie Spencer being on the left-hand side of the back three. I'm not sure that's the position we're going to get.
One of us.
The thing is, it was just so stupid in doing it. What happens is Kasumu loses his man, and Spencer realises he's a 2-on-1 there, and it does come from Kasumu trying to shift when the cross is coming in for no reason whatsoever. So if you're looking at where the penalty came from, the error isn't just on Spencer, it's on Kasumu leaving his man. Two guys rush forward. Spencer panics. He's not looking at where he's in the middle of the box. He's looking at the ball coming in, because I think Nichols is going to clear it anyway. I don't think the striker's going to get there.
Good punch, that. It's a really good punch by Nichols.
It's a good punch, and I think he'd have got there anyway. But Spencer's, look, there's two men around him. He's panicked. He's young. He's inexperienced. And he's grabbed him. He's grabbed him clearly. And for me, it's a penalty every day of the week. And if it happens to my team, I'm screaming for that. And if it's not given, I'd be very, very upset. I think if it's 0-0, they probably don't give it, though. At 2-0, last minute, there's no downside for the referee giving it. And that's possibly where something came into it. But it was just stupid and not necessary. And in a game where you're 2-0 up, fine, you can make that mistake and learn from it. But the problem is, in other games, this costs you points. If this happens last year, it costs you a point that could have been survival or relegation. I know it was more than that, but at the end of the season. But those lapses of concentration, and we had two yesterday, this one and the two defenders going out to meet Dan Kent when he played Liston for his easy chance that he missed. If you're trying to finish top two, even in this division, you can't make mistakes like that generally, because you will be punished. These are professional athletes you're coming up against, and 9 times out of 10, they will punish you for it. We have to be better than what we were there, because they could have scored 2 goals and that could have been a last-minute equaliser. I know the game could have been different in the middle. I get it. But I just mean, I think that was a real lapse of concentration there, both by Kasumu and Spencer, that we have to do better from. And I'm pretty sure, though... Yeah. Sorry, Dom.
No, I was just going to say, Killer, that I'm slightly worried with Brodie Spencer that Town, if they're not careful, they could end up ruining him.
He doesn't look comfortable, does he, Dom? That's the thing. No, he looks discomfort when he's playing there.
No, he does. And he might improve if you give him another 5-6 matches in there. But I mean, so far in his short Huddersfield Town career, he's played right back, centre back, left back, in a back three, in a back four. It's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. That boy, and that's what he is. He's a young boy who, okay, he's played for his country and he's played, 25, 30 matches now for Town, mainly in a struggling side. He needs a settled position or we're going to damage his long-term development. That's the risk I have at the moment, watching him play, that he, even last year, for all the great bits of Brodie Spencer, and you can do fantastic highlights packages, and you see them as on was it Leeds last year where he was superb. But for all those types of matches, there were actually even 3-4 mistakes that he made that led to goals last year. I'm not trying to single the boy out. I think he's got big potential. I just want Town to be careful on how they manage him. But I do think they've got the best manager for that. I think Michael Duff will have recognised as well that he's made a mistake there for the penalty. And there's still a few other parts of his game that he needs to sharpen up on, from what we've seen in the first 2 league matches. But I think Brodie Spencer's an intelligent enough footballer. I think it's going to come. I think it will. But if we genuinely think that we want his pace to be in the back three, because you guys are right, we've got a slow back line, so we need Brodie Spencer in there. But you can't play him on the right because you can't play Tom Lees on the left. Tom Lees isn't comfortable there. So that's the dilemma that Town have got right now, of where it still feels like we're not playing players in their natural position just yet, and we've still got some new signings that are getting up to speed of things. So that's, and that's to be expected. Those Town have made 5 signings, so these players get embedded into the team. But with Brodie Spencer specifically, I think we need to just make a decision once and for all what his best position is, and then stick with him there, as he's our future.
It's one of these, Dom, where I think it's the system which doesn't suit him. The thing is with Brodie Spencer as well, I think a few online were being overly harsh on him as well. I'm not talking about us guys, but just some of the comments I read were just a bit overly harsh. I still think, like you, Dom, he's been shoehorned into a position without much support from the wings as well. And I think that's important to remember. When he played left centre-back last year, he pretty much had a left full-back right inside him. So he didn't have... there was someone a couple of yards to the left of him. We're pushing the wing backs right up here. Mikael Miller and Lasse Sorensen have been pushed right up. So he's all of a sudden got less support. He's got Mikael Hellick next to him, who's a good leader and a good organizer, and Tom Lees as well, the same at that side. But he's got far more to do now in this role, and he's playing an unfamiliar position, and we're asking a lot of him. And he is making a mistake a week or so at the minute. Against Peterborough, to be fair, I thought it was a penalty he should have given away against Peterborough as well, where he went in with the wrong side. And that's what happens. He's very right-footed, and he's some of the passing that the check back onto the right foot, and that's slowing things down. And then he's leading with his right foot to tackle as well, and that's sometimes on the wrong side, and that can get you in trouble as well. And I just feel, and I'm not really blaming Brodie for this. I'm kind of just thinking, are we being fair on him? And would it be more fair to move? I know Tom Lees doesn't like to play left side, but Tom Lees is experienced. He doesn't make these errors maybe that Brodie Spencer does. And I think the other issue as well is Sorensen kind of comes back a bit better than what Miller does as well. So I think that plays into the thinking as well, that Sorensen just drops a bit deeper at times. I know he gets higher than Miller, but he also comes a bit deeper as well. Whereas Miller's, he kind of doesn't quite drop as far, and he's not as natural, I think, in his defensive stuff. So I think there's a balancing act. I think if Balker's playing, I think that's that there's obviously a decision there where you can try and drop him in and out, and Tom Lees can fit in better as well. So I think there's a decision there. It's just, would we be better signing a left-sided defender is a question I've got in my head. An actual proper left-sided centre back. And if we do that, on one hand, it feels harsh on Brodie Spencer, and he's then probably not getting the game time, because where's he going to play in a 3-5-2? Because naturally he's a right back, isn't he? That's where he wants to play. But
I could see Brodie Spencer play a right wing back, but again, you're not going to drop Sorensen after the start he's made to the season. So, yeah, and he's going to stick with Mikael Miller on the left. I think Duff will be conscious of, as well as I thought Jaheim Headley did some good things against Morecambe. Again, we have to say the caveat, it was Morecambe. But this is the issue of where I can't see Duff then playing 2 young players on the left-hand side. It'd be a bit risky, and I think teams would target Town, definitely, as I still think Shaheem Headley is better going attacking than he is the other way. So I think that's, at the moment, it's the balance isn't quite right for Town, but it's a good position to be in when we're talking about this after they've won 3 in a row, and we are nitpicking at areas for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, we're all happy that we've won the game. I think we need to say that, don't we, before people go, are you guys happy that you've won? Yeah, we're delighted we've won the game. Do you know what I thought was weird?
We did a top-class centre-back, left-side centre-back like Martin McIntosh. You mean something like that type?
Maybe someone a bit sharper. Do you know what was weird, Cozzy? Do you know what I found was weird? They got the penalty, and Harvey White dispatches that brilliantly. It's a great penalty. And then after that, you expect them to run, pick the ball out of the goal and run back and think, we've got a minute here to get back into the game and get a point. They never really bothered. They never tried. They just kind of stood off. We won a throw in.
I think, though, but yeah,
it was weird. They didn't really show any urgency to try and get anything in the last minute. I just thought that was a bit weird, really, from Stevenage. I mean, we did have the ball, but
wasn't it? It was just an odd second half in many ways, I thought. But
I thought it was a bit strange. But
I just thought waking up on Saturday, it's just one of those, just get the job done. And I was quite surprised with some of the comments in that I read. Well, she shouldn't be really, because everyone's got different opinions on football. But I think a lot of people have lost their memory since Simonson blasted his penalty over, and we left League One, because League One's always been, football's been pretty much poor.
You were going to say shite then, weren't you?
Tom, you'll know more than most. Sheffield Wednesday didn't play champagne football, did they, that season when they ended up getting up, mate? And they got Dallimore got them loads of points. But this is what's happened, and some of our goals are really, really nice. But yeah, some of football, you've got to stick with it, and it's dull. And I'd argue so far we've seen some quite exciting stuff, but this is how it's going to be, unfortunately. And this is what you've got to do. And it feels like to me already, you're kind of looking at the division, and there's always someone who'll surprise you. But it feels like I think we've just got 6 or 7 teams that I think are going to be miles ahead of anyone else. And then there's going to be I honestly think that you're going to need to get your wins, draws. I think if you draw too many in this division, you're going to be absolutely knackered here. If we want to get where we want to get to, I think you can count them now who's going to be there. I don't. In the Championship, you just don't know. I think it's like 12 to 14 teams maybe can get a playoff spot. I just don't see it in this division, and there seems to be haves and have-nots a bit more than I thought they would be, where everyone was saying, "Oh, it's everyone can beat anyone." I just don't see it in this division, mate. But watch Shrewsbury go and beat us on Saturday. But yeah, I'm just trying to kind of jump to a bit of an early conclusion. But I'll take that on Saturday, Matt. Again, not playing well, and
I think sometimes you just have to grind the wins out, don't you? I think that's it in League One. Sometimes you just have to, don't you? Whether you play champagne football, not stand turn ringing true there. It doesn't matter. You just got to get over the line, haven't you, and just win the game and get the points on the board. I mean, come May, if we're second, no one's going to give a shit how the game went against Stevenage in August, are they? No one's going to care if Brody Spencer gave a penalty away.
That Lee Clark first season, Matt, that was good football, Guy Roberts. We were playing some right stuff then. I remember thinking this is good, but we didn't go up. And you think of that season where it were real pain under Lee Clark and then Grayson after, and we went up. So it doesn't. Sometimes. Yeah, I don't know.
Think the thing is, Kosi, I think in the Championship, everybody plays football a very similar way, and the guys with the better footballers kind of do it better and then end up at the top. And then you get to League One, it's a bit like the dodgeball film where you've got such different teams with such different techniques. It is like that though. So Stevenage are a bit more defensive and then a bit more direct. And then as you go through the season, you're playing against different teams. And that's why last time when Lee Clark, when we played the 4-2-4 with Roberts and Pilks on the sides with Rose and Novak, we looked fantastic in some games, but we still didn't get enough to go up. And then the league was
a lot stronger as well back then.
Was.
Some of the teams in
that's ruining my point, that Matt, though. So we'll just ignore that part. Whereas the second
we'll ignore Southampton, Norwich, Leeds, and all that. Yeah.
But the second year, then we had a total different away performance. When we went away from home, we kind of shifted the system a touch again. We did towards the end of Lee Clark's first season, that first season, but in the second season we definitely did. When was it a phobia in his sub? Was it that year, Matt? Was that when we went 4-5-1?
Yeah, that's when we went 4-5-1. Yeah, we won
away from home, dropping Jordan Rhodes. Well, that's it. But that's what League One requires. Every week in League One is a very different assignment, and Michael Duff refers to this as well. He does. He's been referring to this in his post-match conference, saying you work up to the game day on the week, and he's talking about match preparation days. And now we don't really have many managers before that have spoken like that. I think he does target games and goes with a specific style for that game because he knows in this division we're going to be up against different things on different weeks. And that's why Matt talking about Herbie Kane and Johnny Hogg, as I'm sure we'll go on to again many, many times this season, is so important because different games require different approaches, even if you are big hitters in this division like we hope to be this season. It's a division that's quite difficult.
And the beauty of Duff, I was going to say, Duff is not overcomplicating things either. You know, he's made it pretty clear that to begin with, Town was setting up 3-5-2, and he admitted it after Morecambe that Morecambe changed the shape and they matched them up, and so he went to a diamond, and it sort of allowed him to experiment. But since he's come through the door, you know, I don't think he feels like he's really had that sort of proper time. He's just trying to sort of get back to basics, as that's what Town need to do after years of mainly losing football matches.
Yeah, I want to kind of move this on now to not go too far over the 60 minutes. I just want a quick word for the referee. I just thought it was absolutely shite. Really, really poor. I mean, I don't want this to be a slight on Stevenage, because like Kosi mentioned earlier, when you have a smaller budget, you have to use every 1% in your advantage to try and equalise that talent gap, don't you? And that, like Kosi said, that was us in the Championship for the last 2 seasons, trying to do that. But I just felt there were several occasions where Stevenage were overly zealous, very rough, and the referee didn't give a lot of free kicks for a lot of challenges, and they were very similar to what Evans got booked for as well. I mean, the changing of his decision on Headley's foul, where the bloke elbows Headley in the chops, and the fact that he even gave it the other way in the first place was just complete idiocy. I thought.
Linesman changed his mind for him. I couldn't believe.
I think it's the fourth official.
Fourth official. Sorry, yeah.
When did they listen to them? There were elbows going unpunished, and I mean, I don't want us to be those fans who are crying about not protecting our players, like Pep Guardiola and Hull City last season. They got to protect our players. We're getting fouled too much. I don't want to be that. I just felt the referee was absolutely crap.
Stevenage comms were like convinced we're against them. They said they were horrendous. They were getting
absolutely no
in there. Well, like, guys, what are you watching, man?
I just thought that some of the stuff he was giving for them was ridiculous. But I mean, I mentioned I thought it was one of the worst I'd seen for 20 years. Just consistently throughout the game getting things wrong. Lee Morris said Nigel Miller, but I can't really remember what Nigel Miller did wrong. I used to hate Jeremy Simpson. I know a lot of people who listen to this I'll know my disdain for Jeremy Simpson and the games where he was bad, like Preston away and Blackpool at home, where Tom Lees got concussion and he played on and he thought Tom Lees were faking it. He was bad. But I only went back 20 years because I remember a very special referee called Trevor Parks, who sent Andy Booth off at Leyton Orient for complaining, and then changed his mind in his report afterwards and lied about it. He was probably the worst. He's the benchmark for shitness. Is Trevor Parks, but he got bombed out fairly. Anyway, I think it's time to listen to what Stevenage fans think of the game yesterday, and we've got Matt Farley from the Stevenage FC podcast, who Killer has been speaking with lately.
Hi, chaps. Matt Farley here from the Stevenage Football Club podcast. Obviously, the result on Saturday, we lost 2-1 to yourselves, and just a quick check-in of my thoughts on the match. I think it was very evident from us that early on into the game wasn't going to plan. We weren't able to get hold of the ball and kind of dominate the game and play the football that we wanted to play. And I think it's fair to say that you could see that yourselves are a very good side, borderline Championship level. And I think in the first half, it was very evident that we couldn't get a grip on the game on yourselves, and you played very well. Very good balls into our box. We had to defend many occasions. Some decent passages of play for us, but I think overall at half-time, it was at that point, it was a very resounding 45 minutes for yourselves. Thought second half, we improved a lot. Missed absolute sitter at the start of the half, and I think for a lot of us Stevenage supporters, if we score that, I think we felt it could have been a different game. We had a couple of other really good chances with Louis Apparay as well, going through and hitting the goalkeeper, and obviously getting that consolation goal at the end to make it 2-1. But I think on reflection, I think a win for yourselves was probably the fair result based on the performance over the 90 minutes. Although we had better spells in the second half, I think we were pretty fair in losing 2-1. And I think for us, I think we were more proud of the fact that, we were really struggling in the game, but we still had the quality to have moments and create chances. And on another day, they maybe go in and we take a point from the match. But no, a very, very good performance from yourselves. And I've got to be honest, it was fantastic to see the team play in a big stadium in front of a big crowd. So it's something that we'll learn from and we'll get better in the season. But no, those are my thoughts and take on the 2-1 on Saturday. And just want to reiterate again, best of luck for the rest of the season. Some fantastic people at Huddersfield. It was a pleasure to visit on Saturday. And best of luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll see you in the go up to the Championship the end of the season. But no, 2-1. Best of luck for the next of the season, guys.
Get him
always
on
so
every
nice,
week, Matt.
these League
Him.
One.
What
I
a
know,
guy.
they're always so
Did you
nice,
pay
these
him,
League
Killer?
One fans.
Did you pay him to say all that? What?
He's brilliant, isn't it? He called us a borderline championship club, and we've not been one of them for years. We've been in it for what for? And we were awful for most of it.
I think one thing it does bring home to you in that as well, and again, Duff's mentioned it many times. I think we all know it is Cambridge, Shrewsbury. I mean, just throw the names. They're going to be bulging out there. I think us obviously being in Premier League 20, not in recent times. It's going to be like massive.
I
let's
didn't
spoil
think there
the
would
party.
be. Because I remember being in League One for 12 years, and I just thought they'd be just like, oh, these twats again, kind of thing, more than anything.
Yeah,
but
the thing is, we came up from like League Two though. Then this time we've come down. Matt, a question to you: has the away dressing rooms been done up or not?
I don't
Do you
know.
know?
I don't know. I hope not. I'd like to think not, and that we've put that Danny Ward style, you overly used physio bench in there as well, just to take the piss. But I hope not. I kind of hope not, but it wouldn't surprise me if we have. But let's move on. So thanks, Matt, for those comments. Really nice, and it's we keep getting nice League One fans. We might stay down here a little while, lads. So get used to these decent fans from other clubs, proper fans from proper clubs, aren't they? Let's talk last Sorensen, because he's had a great week, hasn't he? Just very briefly, we'll touch on a couple of things. 4 key passes this week, 3 assists, 13 crosses, and 11 against Morecambe. He's an absolute menace this week as Sorensen. Getting up that flank and just delivering quality balls. And like I think, Killer, you might have mentioned this earlier, the balls that he puts in are quality. I mean, the one he put in for Koroma again was Beckham-esque, wasn't it? It's not, he's whipped it round the defence, which is great. And I saw him do that for Joe Taylor a couple of times on the Joe Taylor video package, which is going around on YouTube. And he just puts great balls in, and it's such contrast to some of the fullbacks we've had, like Flo had a lot of his crosses. Remember when he put 23 crosses in against Swansea, and I think none of them went anywhere near a Town player. I think it was just to make him look good on the stats. But to have someone who can put such quality in, he's just 300,000. Kosi is looking quite a good.
Yeah,
deal,
I'm wondering when Brentford are going to sign him, because they love a Scandinavian down there, don't they? So yeah, it could be 50 million on the window. We lose him, but yeah, brilliant, mate. I mean, I think we're all wondering, aren't we, when defensively we're going to see, when Rotherham maybe soon and Bolton and stuff, how he's going to be the other side of his game, because you cannot argue at all with his attacking prowess. It's absolutely incredible. I wonder what the instructions will be to him in these games against, opposition we're expecting to be up there with us and that as well. That'll be fascinating. But he's incredible, Matt. And it's just like, obviously, not should be talking about betting me, but like, if you had an assist market, you just put him down every time and that as well. And it gets boring. Like, like if we win 3-0, and you don't know any scorers or scores, Sorensen's going to do 2. But you know what? When we signed him, Matt, I remember seeing a couple of people from Lincoln and just said, look, he just gets in about his business. No frills. You know what you're going to get. It's almost like a 7, 8 out of 10 every week. And yeah, we really have got signed really well. And Toffolo obviously came from Lincoln, so maybe that's the place to go for your fullback.
Maybe it's the Huddersfield used to be the place in the 1960s for anybody that remembers some of the fullbacks that came through Huddersfield back then. Miller on the other side, Dom. He's a player who probably had the least amount of fanfare in the summer, but he had a very good game as well. 8 crosses, 3 of them accurate, 3 key passes in the game as well. I mean, that's pretty decent in terms of output. In the first, what we heard about Mikael Miller was that his end product was a little bit iffy, but I mean, those numbers are pretty good, aren't they? In terms of one game, it's not the biggest sample size, but I think Miller obviously pushing higher up helps him, doesn't it? He doesn't have to do as much going back the other way. But again, I thought both of them were an absolute pair of savages down the touchlines, weren't they? And I think we can be very happy with the performances they've made so far, both of them.
Yeah, I think so. To me, Miller looks more of a steady player. He's a little bit sort of quicker than what Sorensen is. Sorensen is he just looks a really good athlete. He's going to get up and down that flank, and he's a great outlet for Town, as we've seen. And then, he's at the moment we've seen he's got that delivery in the final third. We haven't seen it too often yet from Miller, but hopefully it'll come. But you look at Town's business overall. What they've done. Sorensen, one of the best players in League One from last season. Herbie Kane, again, a top sort of League One players, been in and around the Championship. Anthony Evans, one of the best players in League One last season. Mikael Miller played in the Championship 20 plus times for Plymouth last year, has played in League One before. You know, there's a pattern. 4 out of the 5 signings. The only one that is a bit of a wild card is Callum Marshall, and I'm with Kosi that, you know, that's the change straight away I'm hoping to see in attack for Town. You know, when they play Shrewsbury, is that I'd be putting him in instead of Ward. I just think he's got something. Do you know what I mean? What I really like about Marshall is his work off the ball too. I think you know, he puts such a good shift in, and we've seen haven't we, that it just take a clattering and then he gets up and it gets on. You know, it doesn't look much to him. You just think that, you know, he's only a slight young kid, but fearless and good finisher too, as we saw. You know, took that goal really well, I thought, against Morecambe. So very encouraged from what we've seen from him so far, and you know, he'll get better as we go. But I think, yeah, wing back straight away. Town identified, and Michael Duff, the recruitment team, didn't they? They're so key to the way that Duff wants us to play, and I think Town have done some really good business in that department.
Killer, do you know when you were describing the move? So the first striker runs to the near post, and then he either pulls it back or hits them at the near post. Kosi might remember this because he's the elder statesman of this pod. But it reminded me a lot of watching videos of Mally Brown. Do you know when they talk about the move that he used to do for Ian Robbins in like 1979-80? I mean, Kosi was probably about 3 years old or whatever back then, 5 years old when he weren't that old. But the way Killer talked about it just triggered a memory then of watching the final whistle video and Mally Brown whipping balls to the near post, and Ian Robbins would come in and the two strikers would cross over, and it was the same sort of delivery as well, whipping round the defence. But I just thought that was a really strange observation of mine just from listening to that, and just triggered a really weird memory. But there we go. Let's talk about the number 6 Killer. I've seen a lot of praise for Jonathan Hogg after both league games. I just didn't think he was necessary in this game. I mean, he was okay. He tried to force a lot of things, I thought, from the number 6 position. I don't know, saying anything negative about Hogg is blasphemous in HD1, isn't it? But I just thought that there are games where you'll need him there, and there are games where you can perhaps be a little bit more adventurous. And I think in our WhatsApp group, I thought Neil made a really good comment, and that was that Duff's probably at the stage at the minute where he's just wanting to make sure that we're winning games rather than being a little bit flamboyant. And I think that was a really good point that he made. We thought in the warm-up that Herbie Kane should probably sit there because we knew Stevenage would sit back, and we just thought Herbie Kane with more, he could thread the balls through a lot more for your attacking players than what Hogg did. Hoggy a lot of the time tried to force it too much, and there was a time in the first half where he tried to play a through ball and ended up in the south stand. And it's just you kind of think there's horses for courses at this point. And was it the wrong game for Hogg, or was it the right game because we won it in the end and he helped to see it out, didn't he? I was a little bit unsure for large parts, but I do want to see Herbie Kane in that number 6 position against. I mean, we don't know how good Stevenage are going to be yet at the end of the season. They pushed for the top 6 last season, so they can't be too bad. But you would think against maybe some of the teams that are on less of a run that we perhaps need to break down those stubborn low blocks, that maybe we don't need him in some of the games, and maybe Herbie Kane would be a better option, is where I'm going with that.
Yeah, we both wanted Herbie Kane to start, didn't we? But we did expect Johnny Hogg would get the nod for this one. I think we'll know a lot about this coming Saturday with Shrewsbury. We're obviously looking like one of the favourites to go down, be it from the odds pre-season and the form up until now. For another little nod, Matt, to the warm-up, I think we both got the goal scorers right this weekend. I had to drop it in here, Matt. You knew it were coming. I did go for the 2-1 with Wilesy and Karoma scoring. You went 2-0 with Wiles and Karoma scoring. So it's not a bad start for us there, is it? We've done all right. I'll remember it. If I'm right, I'll remember it. But no, for me, I think that first half we dominated the play. We didn't really need Johnny Hogg. I understand the argument could be said that we dominated because Johnny Hogg was in there. To me, he wasn't necessary. I think if you'd have had Herbie Kane there in that first half with that intensity, would have created better chances, more chances, and probably put the game to bed in that first half. But then in the second half, Matt, Johnny Hogg were perfect for that. If we are switching off a little bit, and I think I need to go back to something you said there, Dom. It's not necessarily tiredness. I think Town knew they had Stevenage beat. It felt like we were better than them all over the park. And when players feel that, they just switch off a little bit. You feel comfortable. You don't necessarily put the same amount of effort. And it's not laziness. You just know you've got them beat. And even at 1-0, 2-0, it's kind of like that. And I think that's what we saw a little bit in that second half. For me in those games, Matt, like you said, games like Shrewsbury coming up this weekend, I think you're going to have more of a deep block to break down. Herbie Kane is the guy because Johnny Hogg doesn't do that. But then the counter argument, again, Matt, is if Johnny Hogg's playing there as a DCM, it allows your wing-backs to get higher. So you have to get more from them. So that's a counter-argument. The problem is I don't think we've been tested really just yet. Either the team's much better than I thought it was going to be, or Duff's got something singing out of a hymn sheet that no one expected. We look good. We look really, really good, and we haven't been tested yet. Tougher tests will come, and when that happens, I think it'll be a bit easier to know what we need. But I think it's very hard to leave Johnny Hogg out for any manager. He's been a staple in our team for every manager we've had since he's been here. So for him to leave him out of the first home game after you've won away at Peterborough, it's a big call, and I don't think many people will do it. This coming Saturday, we'll understand a little bit more about how Michael Duff plans to go forward against teams that aren't going to come at us as much as other teams will.
Why are we playing at home again? Who invents these fixtures? It's not hard. Computers. Home away. Why are we playing at home 2 weeks in a row? It's just, when are you getting involved in cricket and that? You're not seeing games. Home and away.
Right, that's what it comes down to. It's not about the fixture computer. It's about the cricket fixtures, I think, more than anything. But there we go. What do you reckon, Dom? I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on Hoggy because he's a town legend, isn't he? There's horses for courses, and I think Neil made a brilliant point about it in terms of, you know, it's a new. I think where he was going was it's a new team, and then you've got your organizer there, just making sure the pieces are fitting together in that defensive midfield role. Maybe it will come later in the season, and maybe we will get Herbie Kane or someone or Tom Appender sitting there and someone who's a bit more comfortable on the ball picking passes. But for now, is Hoggy the obvious choice, do you think?
I think that's 100% the reason that Hogg has started the first two league matches. It's for his leadership. It is, you know, when he's trying to change the culture, and that is constantly what Duff is saying right now, and that is not going to happen overnight. And Jonathan Hogg is Mr. Huddersfield Town. But I'm sure that Duff will be thinking privately that as the season goes on, that he will not look to phase Hoggy out, but he will have to manage him. Hoggy's going to be 36 in December. And if Town progress in the competition that I can't remember what it's called, it changes that many names now. Was it
the BSM? Is it the BSM, which is a bit of a dodgy acronym, isn't it?
So Town, if they go deep in that, you could be looking at could be looking at 60 matches this season. It could be. So the squad will be tested, and so Jonathan Hogg will be needed without shadow of a doubt for everything that he brings and everything that he stands for. But yeah, I'd like to think that the best starting 11 for Town when we get into the second half of the season won't necessarily include Jonathan Hogg in it. But what I would say on Herbie Kane is that I think he'll be another player that I can see will infuriate Huddersfield Town fans in the sense that you'll get progressive passing from Herbie Kane, and I don't think there's a midfielder on Town's books who's got better vision than he has, and sort of the ability to spot a pass and put a player in. And we've already seen a few glimpses of it, but there will be some matches where he reminds me a bit of Lee Fowler, of where, you know, when Lee Fowler was playing in League Two and we signed him and we thought, he can run a midfield and he can dictate play. I remember seeing him when we played Halifax in a pre-season friendly. Thinking,
it was good.
Oh my God, what a player this boy is! And Herbie Kane reminds me, he's a much better version of what Lee Fowler ended up being. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, Herbie Kane, I think, will have matches where you're pulling what hair you've got left.
Herbie Kane's not got much, has he?
And his, yes. But I mean, he will be a match winner. But then there will be some times where you think he's a bit of a luxury player, or he's someone where, you know, just do the simple thing. But instead, he'd try to go for the Hollywood pass and he'd go for the diagonal, and where you think just keep it ticking over, you know, from that sort of deeper midfield role that we're going to have him in. And so, yeah, Herbie Kane was a great free transfer pickup. Don't get me wrong. But I still think there'd be some matches where, you know, you are scratching your head thinking that, you know, your better decision making, then he'd be in the Championship. And that's the reason why it's at Huddersfield Town now in League One, of where it's going to be a bit hit and miss sometimes, is that passing radar that he's got.
Hoggy, if you do listen to this podcast, just be sure that we all absolutely love you and don't kill us. We do love Jonathan Hogg on this podcast. We just have to ask the question because that is a general thing people talk about. Kosi, let's move on to strikers. This is one of the last things really that we're going to talk about. We've been linked with Joe Taylor for ages. We've been linked with Bailey Cadamartri. Somebody called Dom Howson thinks we should go for Michael Smith at Sheffield Wednesday as well. I think we perhaps need another senior striker. I know we've got loads already. We've got Hudlin, we've got Harrott, we've got Danny Ward, we've got Healy, we've got Marshall now. We've got so many options, but we do play two up front, and we like Dom says, there could be 60 games. I just don't think the combinations are quite working so far. And you mentioned Karoma, you're not overly convinced with that. I just think sometimes when you've got two up front, you need someone who'll drop and someone who'll go beyond, in that kind of thing. And Danny Ward and Karoma, Reece Healy, Karoma, they both kind of drop off. They don't go beyond defenses. And sometimes we won't get beyond defenses because they'll be sat so deep. So you do need different types of strikers. I just think that we lack a senior one who can get behind defenses a little better than what the ones we already have do. And that's what I'm hoping for before the end of the window. Or a different option whereby you can go over the top of teams like Michael Smith, I guess, where you can just throw a looping ball into the box and someone big like a Smith or a Cosgrove or somebody like that can just get a touch on it and it just rags into the corner for different styles. What have you made of the different strikers? I know you want to see Callum Marshall a bit more, and I think we all kind of want to see a little bit more of him as well. What do you make of the situation in that unit?
It's a bit awkward, Matt, I think, because I just don't see a place for Karoma if we get another striker, which is what we're all wanting and that as well. Part of me wonders if we could use him as I've liked him, but he's up and down. He's been here for 5 seasons as kind of a make weight in a club. I think he does enough. If you're watching the highlights, show just Karoma, he did this and that and the other. So I think you could get him out, but I just think Michael Duff's always said he's really honest with the players, and he'll tell them if they're not part of the plans. And obviously, he started the games, but I just think if we do get someone in, style of striker doesn't, for me, seems to be what we've got, Matt. And mentioning Kyle Hudlin, he's making me laugh seeing Kieran Phillips doing well for Sacramento. How good that stand is, I don't know, but whether
he got some great goals there as well.
Yeah, whether he confidence, right? Maybe it could be an option, but yeah, I just don't see where Karoma fits into it. I mean, obviously. To be fair, I think we could have maybe scored that goal on Saturday. Such was the ball in from Sorensen.
I don't know. It's a banging header, is that?
Obviously, what is it? August 20th tomorrow, isn't it? So we're nearly there to that window shooting.
10 days, 10 days.
Yeah, I still think there'll be a bit of business. Duff said, hasn't he, that? I mean, he would say that, wouldn't he? That if the window shuts tomorrow, he'd be happy with what he's got. But I still think a bit of pace at the back and a decent forward is required, and maybe a couple of outs and that as well. But it's. Ward is Ward, mate. He's never going to change, is he, at his age and stuff? And he's just a man for me at the bench, maybe to see a game out or, a one-up or something. He can do good things. But, yeah, just Kyle Hudlin's just frustrating, isn't it, really? Because he should really be, if he were any good, he'd be in now doing a job. I just think if you're Carrot or an Hudlin and you're not, obviously we've got Marshall and bring someone else in, doesn't say much for your future, in my opinion, mate, and that as well. But I think if we're being honest, these guys going to be the, I know opinions divided on Kieran Harrott, Matt. What's your thoughts? Do you think he's a man who's just destined maybe to get out on loan and play elsewhere, or do you think he could do a job? Obviously, Osterfield's gone. Is he one of those types, mate? Maybe his future's better out of town.
We haven't mentioned Josh Osterfield, have we? He's gone to Salford. Kieran Harrott, for me, he's quite good moving in the box. I just think outside the box he doesn't offer enough at the minute. Whether he goes on loan and learns, or whether we let him go permanently, I don't know. I just think for us at the moment, I'm not sure what he just needs to offer more in the build up and the link up for me outside of the area and do a bit more. It doesn't make the right runs for me to drop deep and link things. And sometimes every now and then he does it, and you think, oh, it's clicking, and then he doesn't. And when a player doesn't sort of touch the ball for 15, 20 minutes at times when they play, I have a worry but I mean, he could do, but as it stands, if Town are looking for more strikers, then you would think Harrott's probably not as fancied as what you would think. I mean, he has qualities for sure, but I'm not sure if the club see him as the long term thing that everyone else does. But let's throw it to Dom as well, because Dom's mentioned about the strikers as well. What do you reckon, Dom? Bailey Cadamartri or Michael Smith?
I'd take them both. I don't think they'd be able to get both on Wednesday. From what I've heard, I think there is interest in them both. And there's obviously a very clear link with Bailey. He's a really promising young striker. He's got a bit of pace and good movement in the box.
Is it different to Marshall, Dom? Different style striker?
I was just, do you know what?
Stronger, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he's bulked up a bit over the summer and he needed to. Do I think he's that different to Callum Marshall or potentially better than Callum Marshall? I'm going to say at this stage, no. So I think personally Town need a 6'2", 6'3", Wayne Howson type figure. Just as a point of difference for the attack. That's what I want of where there'll be times where we were talking about Stevenage going Route 1 and direct. That's what Town are going to need to do. There will be games where that's what's going to be required to get the job done. It will be. So that's why I mean, Michael Smith would be a great fit. He's still in and around the Wednesday squad. He came off the bench against Sunderland. So Wrexham are in for him as well. There's a bit of competition. But he's at League One level. He got 20 goals for Wednesday when they got promoted last year. So that's the sort of player I'd like to see Town be in for. And then, of course, Town missed out on Alfie May, as we know. So I think that is an experienced striker who's done the business in League One. That clearly is what Michael Duff is after. But what have we got left in the transfer budget? Is it going to be loans? Are we looking again maybe? I think we need someone a bit more proven for me. I think that's what I'd like to see. I've actually just noticed today that, I mean, he's not a striker, he's more of an attacking midfielder, but I'd take Davis Keeler-Dunn at Mansfield as well. Barnes, we've had a few bids for him turned down, but he'd be another terrific option for Town to have in that sort of number 10, could play just off the striker. Kosi was talking about Karoma there, and we're going back to sort of shoehorning players into the team. In this system, that's the only way we can play and get Karoma in, is in playing off the striker or playing in the front two. But I don't think that's a long-term answer for me. I could see it working in some matches and against, the inferior teams in this league. But yeah, that's where I think Town need minimum one player, ideally two for me. I'm not as concerned defensively. I know what you're saying about pace, and then I hear where you're coming from. But I suppose we have got players there, though. Ruffles and Turton didn't even get in the squad on Saturday. So it's not as if we don't have players there to come in and get us through to January, and then hopefully Borker's back soon. By the way, up front, we haven't even mentioned Radulovic, where he fits in with the plans as well.
I mean, he's quite decent in the air. Would he be like Michael Smith?
He could
kind of in style?
Possibly. I really hope that Radulovic gets a crack of it when he comes back. I mean, what did Duff say? He got a hat trick and then he got injured.
28 minutes.
Classic Town, isn't it?
He's good. When you watch Radulovic, he's good. His link-up play is really good. He's really,
a similar
really
build to Michael Smith. Yeah, I think there's a player there, and so if he's
just made a paper,
up a
isn't
bit,
he?
yeah. Well, this is it. So far, Town they've got Borker and Radulovic are the two players who are injured at the minute. That we signed in the infamous January window. Yeah, so
and Healy,
and Healy. So yeah, all in all, we can't hang our hat on them really, can we, to deliver for Town at the moment? It'd be great if we could, but I hope Radulovic that at least Duff has a look at him, and that I'm sort of leaning on Harrott. We should loan out, I think, and Hudlin, get those two off the books, and then I think get another striker in, and then maybe another offensive player so that we could change formation should we wish.
I like that. Killer, do we need to blow this? Because you are a Josh Karoma fan, aren't you? Do we need to blow the conch?
Matt, I feel like I'm going to disagree with everybody here. Honestly, I've been sat here quiet. I think Karoma's the best striker we've got for the system we play.
He's not a striker, though, Killer.
Because he's fuming.
I bet we
He's
don't.
not
I bet.
chilled out.
I bet
I'll let
if
you
you look
and
at our
Dom
team,
yeah.
It's not.
you can go for all the strikers we've got that have played for us. I'd guess Karoma's goals per minute ratio as a striker for Town is as good as anybody's. When he plays down the middle, he generally does score. You can argue how much he does around that. But in this game so far this season, we've scored 2 goals, 3 goals, and then 2 goals. To me, our striking options, if fit, now this is the key part, if fit, are fine. I have no issues with who we've got. You can argue that we need somebody in, like you say, a bit bigger who can change it up if we're struggling to break a team down, if we want that physicality. We don't have that option available to us now. To me, I see Marshall come in instead of Alfie May. I feel like that wouldn't have happened if May had have joined us. I think we're not too bad up top. We're scoring goals, we're creating chances, and we look all right. I'm a massive Josh Koroma fan, and I'll be that until the day I die. I think he's a fantastic player at this level. I think the defence is the weakness, and if we've only got a set amount of a transfer budget, that's where I'd be going with it, because I think that's more important, sorting out Spencer at left centre-back than sorting out another striker where we're already scoring goals and doing okay if Healy's fit. But the problem is we've got Healy and Ward, haven't we? And neither of them at this point of their careers can last very long. We need to get 46 games out of both of them combined, because to me, they're very similar strikers. If you can get 23 out of one and 23 out of the other, that's okay. You've got Koroma as the other option there, and you've got Marshall as the other option there. Radulovic has never done it for me, and I think he's too lightweight, as we spoke about when he first came in January. And funnily enough, that's exactly how it's played out. I don't think we're that bad for strikers myself. And I feel like I'm very much against everybody else on this. I understand that. And I know I'm fighting this on my own. But we've done okay so far. And strikers are expensive. But fans love signing a new striker. Nothing's more exciting than somebody else coming in to play up front. But with what we've got and how we've played so far, I don't think it's a thing that needs fixing first for now until Healy and Ward are injured. And then I'll totally change my tune. And I'll apologise to you personally, Dom and Kosi. And when Karoma's not gone 5 games without a goal or whatever, and I'll say I'm entirely wrong. But for now, the way we've started the season, Koroma should have got 2 against Morecambe. And it's okay. I'm a believer that if you get in the chances, eventually they'll come. And now Koroma, for his entire career at Town, I think he's always kind of been on the chopping block a little bit. And he's never been the bona fide starter apart from one of the Cowleys, maybe. Is that right, Matt? You're probably better on
Carlos, I think Carlos' first season, wasn't it, when he looked absolutely electric, didn't he, on the left?
And when he gets that time, he does look electric. He's not a guy. Certain players like competition and certain players don't. I think Koroma benefits when he doesn't have that much competition. And at the moment, what he gives us, dropping into that 9, but still with that bit of pace so he can turn and go, he's a bit more of an all-round striker than Ward and Healy are at this point, because Healy's injured. That's why I'm not too worried about the strikers. I'm not. But again, we'll go 0-0 against Shrewsbury. Then we'll go to Rotherham and be awful again. And I'll totally change my tune and I'll pretend it never happened. But for now, I think I'm all right.
Do you know what? I'm going to agree with Killer a little bit. I do actually like Josh Koroma more as a striker in a 2 than I do on the left, because I think sometimes on the left he's too predictable, because he does the same thing where he cuts in and tries to shoot, whereas up front he kind of does a little bit more. And I think, but again, it's horses for courses, because I think when you play against Peterborough, Josh Koroma's really good at being the first one to press and the first one to harry. I think in space he's quite dangerous and he can cause a lot of problems. But I think it's when teams sit back like Stevenage did in the first half. I think Josh Koroma can be smothered quite easily because he can be quite predictable at times. And I think his default when he's not sure what to do is just to shift it onto his right foot and shoot from wherever he is on the pitch. And I think that can be quite easy to defend against sometimes. But I think there are games for Koroma there, which is why I'd never rule him out. But I also think there are games where it's just not going to suit him. And it's those games where I do see him as a flat track bully in some games where he'll score against some of the weaker teams, or you would think he would score against some of the weaker teams, and then against some of the better teams, I think he'll struggle at certain points. But I also think he'll bring strengths off of the ball as well. So it's going to be interesting. I just struggle with the combinations sometimes of the strikers. That's where I'm at now, where I kind of go Koroma and Ward, and you kind of go no, and then you kind of think Koroma and Healy, and you kind of think no. Koroma and Marshall, and you think maybe, but there's not a lot of strength between them. And like, if you want to hit the ball direct, I mean, you can find holes in every combination, but you can probably find like pros as well in them. And I think Koroma, what he does, he drops into little pockets quite well and links quite well now as well. I think he drops out into areas quite well, but it's just trying to get the consistency from him as well, and not that Josh Koroma, which gets his head down and just cuts inside and shoots into into the legs of about 5 defenders at times. I think that's maybe where he is. But I do think we need a difference as well up there. And if Bojan Radulovic can be it, then great. But I do agree with Killer in that he's been incredibly lightweight at times when he has played for us. But there are times, the game where he played against Stoke, that first half against Stoke, he was phenomenally good, wasn't he? And the goal, technically is a very good striker of the ball as well. And a lot of his goals in Finland were in the air as well. So you would think he adds that difference as well. So I still think we need a senior striker to push on for the top 2. But if we didn't, then we would be okay. But I think there's too many ifs and buts around all the combinations we've got. We've got if he does this, if he does that, if he does that. I just want someone who does. Do you know what I mean? Someone who goes out and does it every week. I don't want someone who kind of think, well, if we play against this team and if he plays with this striker, he might score or he might do all right. I just want someone to go out and be like Andy Booth last time we're in League One and just score goals and be a pain in the backside. That's what I want. If we can't afford it, we can't afford it. If we can, go out and do it. That's where I'm at with that. But I think that's it for strikers. What we'll mention as well, Town, fantastic to see Huddersfield Town women get off to a flying start as well, 2-0 against Leeds United women. Kosi, I don't know if you want to wax lyrical about a certain player here.
Molly Firth. Yeah, no, just nice. My friend's daughter signed for the Shield ladies, and they proper pushed the boat out for her. The irony is she played for Leeds. So she played for Sheffield United under 21s last season, but when she was told that she was going to be released, she went on loan to Leeds. I went to see a few games, and she's a massive Town fan. I've been season card since she was like 5, so it's always an awkward one, I always think, to put the Leeds colours on and everything. So she played there. She played in she played she played in women, so she's only 18 is Molly, but obviously some of these women like 29, 30, 31, so big step up. But so in the summer, Leeds wanted to sign her permanently, but Huddersfield come calling, and it proved too much. So with beautiful Irene yesterday at Garth of Town, Molly came off the bench and 96 minute, lovely little finish actually. I've got to talk about whether she meant it or not as well. But yeah, she was impressed with the ambition of Huddersfield Town ladies, and obviously we've talked about it before, and will Nagel get involved with it, etc., as well. But I think first and foremost, I know it's just a little thing, but it was just nice to see him playing with a proper Town kit on, with a Town badge. That wasn't always the case when Molly was there, when she was playing for the under 15s and stuff as that as well. With different sponsor, not even different badge. So, and there's talk of playing one game in the stadium as well. And the ambition, it's 4th tier stuff. So don't get me wrong, it's not like Bethmead and that kind of standard as well. But yeah, they're ambitious. They want to. We sponsored Beth Stanfield last year, and she was a big part getting this year season as well. So no, obviously I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on how she does, and they want promotion, Matt, and it's good. And there's some interesting stuff on the other podcasts as well. We've got Arthur Difford, a good friend of mine, who's doing reports and stuff. Pictures. I like the social media stuff that was coming out as well. I don't know. It feels like something's building there. Maybe I'm a bit biased because Moll's there this season, but it can only give good for the public of Huddersfield that successful women's team, and so obviously any Huddersfield team that beats a Leeds team is always going to be happy. But it's what a great start yesterday for the girls.
Fantastic. So I think the only way to sort of end before we go into that, I think. One thing I noticed, and it's sad. It's very, very sad, really. On the way to the game. So I walk up Leeds Road from the other end of town, towards the stadium, and there's the house there that's recently been burnt out.
Next to the shop, yeah,
next to the shop. And I remember last season there was a little girl outside. She'd set up a little market stall, and she was like selling some of her toys to make money. And she's a really lovely little girl. Really seemed, walk past. She's really nice and trying to sell things. And to sort of see that, and I hadn't read anything because obviously I don't live in Huddersfield, so I don't particularly read the local news. So to see that was a bit of a shock, and then to sort of last year selling her toys had died in a house fire was really sort of gutting to see, and I don't know if any of their relatives listened to the podcast or anything, but it was just like I say, it was just a horrible thing to see, and I wish that family nothing but the best, and our condolences from here, because it was quite, on the way home and seeing that it was a little bit sobering, going from being happy at the sort of puts things into, it's only a game, when you see that. And I was quite upset to see that. But so rest in peace to that lovely little girl that I saw selling her toys. So I don't want to do. Yeah, and a mum, of course, as well. Yeah, so I don't want to delay on that too longer and bring everyone down. But I just wanted to mention that, and it was a sad moment from that day.
Matt, did that goal for Stockport knock us off top at least? Sorry, Stevenage's thingy. Did that knock us off the top? I know it's upset some people.
A few late ones as well, didn't they? So I think they ended up winning 3-0 or something. So Stockport are top, but that's all the pressure on them. That's what we want, Kosi. All the
some good away trips, isn't there? Stockport, Wrexham, Rotherham. There's a lot near us. Barnsley. It's going to be interesting, mate. And there's going to be some good away days. There'll be sellouts for town fans. I think be an interesting year, mate. How it started.
Some good spots. So that's it for this week. Thank you very much. So tune in for the warm-up a little bit later in the week when me and Killer will break down what we think may happen against Shrewsbury.
Tell you who's going to score first so you can win at the bookies.
I know. Dom, thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll get you on throughout the season as well. It's been good to have you back. Kosi, same as you. And that's it. And we'll be back next week.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.